Savvy Business Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with our host, Christina Nichman.
Our return guest today is Paul Mladjenovic, sharing how to secure your financial future with his two-pronged approach to wealth building. You can find out more about Paul Mladjenovic at ravingcapitalist.com, and for our savvy listeners, he's offering a special gift of his zero-cost marketing course and home building Goldmine course for only $9.99 through December 31st, 2018. You don't want to miss this offer. Find out more about Paul again at ravingcapitalist.com. Hi, Paul. Welcome back to Savvy Business Radio. You're our longtime, wonderful news and financial consultant here who've been on Savvy several times, as well as our live performance in Manhattan. We had a fabulous time networking event afterward. Today,
oh, yeah. Oh, my wife loved it. I loved it. Vito's a buddy now. I had no idea he's, he does a lot of stuff in Jersey. So he and I crossed paths many times, especially at some business events as well. So, that was excellent. I love that. That was a great memory.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome. You came to share your zero-cost marketing, which you're about to launch in January, a new edition.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And then you've also created a wonderful book, which are going to help people out there get an understanding of the true understanding of capitalism versus socialism. Socialism versus capitalism, the real world differences. People have misconceptions on both, and you're going to break the ice on that. And then today you're going to share even more to help our audience get in touch with wealth building. The market has been said to be a little volatile right now. People are scared to put their money in investments, where to invest. But you're going to share how everyone can build wealth in different ways, either passively or actively, and really build a wonderful nest egg to keep themselves going and not have to stress when they get older and enter into retirement, because you're not meant to wait till you're 60 or 70 and then finally have golden years to only count on a Social Security check, eh?
Exactly. Then they're not so golden. I agree with you, definitely. Well, you know what? You touched on a batch of things, and what I'd love to see everybody do is, as you know, my site's called Raving Capitalist.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And the thing is, but that's an actual methodical approach, believe it or not. The Raving Capitalist approach is, I'd love to see, have everybody in your audience. And by the way, you do have a savvy audience out there. They understand a lot about financial strategies and business strategies. And what the Raving Capitalist approach is that it's a two-pronged approach that I want people to embrace. There's the passive wealth building and there's the active wealth building. Like passive wealth building, which I love to teach people on. Like for example, like obviously people saw the stock market and how crazy that was, whatever. Mm-hmm. But a lot of that volatility was stocks that, because because the stock market isn't just a stock. It's different kinds of stocks that are out there. And one thing that I love, my favorite kind of stock investing are, believe it or not, dividend-paying stocks that are that are dealing with human need. Everybody is watching the high flyers like the Amazons and social media stocks and Google and whatever, and I don't have any of those stocks. I avoid them like the plague, believe it or not. I like to get stocks, companies that have been around for decades, who've been making a profit year in and year out for decades, who've been paying a growing dividend every year for decades, and who are tied to human need. Food, water, beverage, utilities, the stuff that will never go out of style, And the thing is, like for example, I saw a client the other day, and they got to the point where, to me, I've always had cash on the sidelines for moments like this, because when stocks go down, I know that $20 stock that gave a $1 dividend, that's a 5% yield. Mm-hmm. But in 2008, when that $20 stock crashed to 10, and they're still paying a $1 dividend yield, now it's a 10% yield, that the $1 dividend, you see?
Yeah.
So I have people be able to buy those things and lock in juicy yields that are perfect for their long term and for their retirement. And now I have clients who are making 4 figures a month, in terms of their dividend income, and they all started some years ago, because that's what I tell people to do. I tell people, like I'm going to come out with an article soon about the current stock market. I say, listen, market crash or not, don't invest in stocks, invest in companies, because, the stocks will do this. In good times, they do this. In great times, they do this. In bad times, they do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, don't look at the stocks, look at the companies. If they're solid companies, selling food, water, beverage, consumer staples, these things, they don't go out of style, You know what I mean?
You know what? That brings to mind for me, Paul, that's probably why so many people do well in real estate when they decide to do a portion of their portfolio in real estate, because who doesn't need a roof over their head? Clothes on their... Yeah.
Exactly right. And the amazing thing is, like, perfect what you mentioned. Some of my favorite stocks are actually what are called real estate investment trusts that are now paying 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% dividend yield. For example, one of my clients, you know, I've done this with other people. For example, you've been hearing for years about the aging of America, right? Millions of people, you know, 10,000 people a day turning 65. I should be ready any second now, actually. And the thing is that, you know, one of my favorite real estate investment trusts, for example, again, I can't tell specifics on it because I don't know who's watching, whatever. I'll tell you privately later on and you can share it. But it was a real estate investment trust that was, believe it or not, into senior housing and assisted living. You know, makes a 5% yield, pays a dividend monthly, you know, and the thing is, it just chugs along, you know what I mean? While everything else is going up and down, that's a steady performer. In other words, I'm investing in things where, you know, where the trend is in my favor. There'll be more and more people demographically who will need these things. You know, they get paid from, you know, these people have to pay from their pensions or Social Security, from their assets. And this, again, it sounds boring, but the point is, when you see markets crashing by 500 points or 1,000 points, you prefer the boredom at that point. Yeah. You don't need that kind of excitement. You see,
well, so in other words, you know what's interesting to me, Paul, when you think about these big businesses, say Amazon or Facebook, even Google, you think, well, they're going to be here forever. If I put my money in them, I'm solid gold. But like you said, if things were to absolutely crash tomorrow, do you need Facebook ads? Do you need to go to Amazon to buy? You would probably go to your store closest to you and buy as minimally cheap as possible, not spend on shipping. You'd find cheaper ways to spend, which might not be Amazon or Google or some of those places. But so bringing to mind things closest to home and things that you actually need, basic necessities. Now, here's something else I found interesting. I had heard a number of years ago that during the Great Depression, everyone was suffering. Food was even short. My grandma said sugar and all the basic, you know, necessities like milk were rationed. But one of the things that did very well, believe it or not, was Revlon kept chucking along. And it was because that, you know, every so often, if you didn't have a lot of money to spend, buying that one lipstick that can make you feel good, we're still getting, you know, still being bought. So you would not think someone like a makeup company would be doing well at a time like that.
No, exactly. And just like, for example, in healthcare, I mean, there are some very speculative things in healthcare, but there's some things that keep chugging along because healthcare is very diverse. You've got speculative things and et cetera. But for example, drug retail stocks, you know what I mean? They pay a good dividend and they're basically insulated from Amazon because, you know, if you want aspirin, you're not going to have it shipped in 2 days, especially if you have a headache today. You know what I mean? So people go to that, and those kind of places, they've been profitable, chugging along, and that's a great example of human need. You know what I mean? And when times are bad, probably people buy more aspirin versus less in the bad times. So those things tend to do well. So a lot of investing is more common sense, and it's not the insanity that I see out there. For me and a lot of people I've been dealing with, we're not jumping out the windows because in many cases we're not tied to those things that are, you know, that are fad stocks and jumping in and jumping out and social media and crashing and soaring. That's not investing. That's trading, speculating, you know, and very short-term focused. So for me, there's some positions there's some positions that I have clients who've held them for so long that today they're getting annual dividend payouts greater than their original investment from like, say, 15, 20 years ago.
That is really, really impressive. But that's not the only way to build passive income. There's other active ways. Like I think we talked before the interview how when I started the show, it was basically a means for me to get the word out for my consulting business, to build credibility. But it had another positive effect, which was some of the platforms I were on gave me money paid per click. And I didn't even ask for it. They were like, okay, you're doing well. Would you like to join our revenue program? And I started to get several $100. And this is early on when I first got started. A month, passive income just poof from doing the thing I'm already doing and getting extra income in my bank. Oh,
no, exactly right. Because I'll tell you, as a matter of fact, because I mean, what you're talking about, a lot of people can do in their part-time. I always tell people, if you have spare time, now do the second leg of the Raving Capitalist, which is to do start a spare time business. You know, choose an area that you love to do and start it on the weekends. And the power of doing this is what? it's not just another stream of income. That's the first reason people think about this. But there's a lot of other power to it as well. Number two, do you know that when you have your own home-based business, you know you can have your own 401k plan? A lot of people don't realize that.
No.
You can actually set up your own, and you know, for example, like people know that they can get an IRA, and an IRA can let you put in $6,000 or 65 grand, or 6,500 or whatever. But you know, when you're self-employed, you could do what's called a Sep Ira, a self-employed plan, where, you know, don't hold me to this number, but something like as of the most recent year, it's going to be raised, but it was like 50. You can be able to set aside up to 53,000 as a percentage of your sideline income. Wow. So in other words, so that really expands how much you're able to set aside. So it helps people to accelerate their pace. So a sideline business has a lot of power to it. I give them 7 benefits, and one of them is this: when you go to the trouble of creating the income, you know that later on, when your business, you know, like once, let's say 10 years from now, and you're ready to stop doing it, well, don't just stop doing it. You could package it. You could give it to a business broker and sell it, because businesses that create income can be sold for 50,000, 100,000, 50,000, $250,000 and up. You know, and the amazing thing is sometimes a business will have value even if it's been running losses year in and year out. Do you notice? For example, I recall the story of the 2 guys who worked at home who set up an email service. And never made a profit, but they finally sold that email service to Microsoft. It's called Hotmail, and they sold that, and they sold it for $500 million to Microsoft. You know, so I don't know about you, but I can get by on $500 million. I don't know, you know, that's a true story.
Now tell me, how did they possibly sell something that was actually running a loss? Why would someone buy a company that's running a loss?
Here's the thing. The point is this. They had Hotmail. They were having a huge audience of users of the free email. You follow?
Yes.
So that they were hoping to be able to, you know, build it up to the value point. And of course, Microsoft says, well, if we buy Hotmail, now we have a ready-made audience to sell them products, etc. So that's a great example, you know, of how they were able to sell it for value. I've had clients who were able to sell businesses for 6 figures and 7 figures, you know, out there. So in other words, think of everyone has value that they can offer. So for me, the sideline business started off for the first reason: generate income. First supplemental, then you never know if it can go full-time later on. But then later on, and not only that, you could build wealth. Like I said, you know, when you're self-employed, not only that, but now if you're running it from home, now you can write off some home expenses, you know, because a legitimate home office has home office expenses. And the IRS even tells you how to do that through their publications. You know, like you can go to IRS and they have a publication 587, which is how to write off a home office. You know, and the IRS tells you. You know, that's the great thing. Everything I'm telling people to do is available, you know, with the full blessings and guidance of the IRS, and they can utilize this. Because you see, the reason why I'm so passionate about people having a home-based business is because, you know, I'm a certified financial planner. I've been a CFP since 1985. Wow. Back when there was only like 6 of them. You know what I mean? And I've been doing adult education for 35 years. And when I first became a CFP, I've met people who would laugh and say, "Oh, I'm not a millionaire." So I started the $50 Wealth Builder, how to invest with as little as $50. So then I had people tell me the next joke, which is, "Oh, Paul, I don't even have $50. So I said, "So start a part-time business. You're in America. You can do it." You know what I mean? And so what ended up happening with that was that you heard certified financial planners or any financial advisors. What is their mantra? Oh, you should be diversified, right? Yes. You heard it during this market crash. Oh, you should be diversified. Bonds, cash, CDs, that kind of thing. Great advice. Yeah. But I take it a step further, you know, because how many people out there, whether they're retired or not, are having most of their income coming from one source, one job at that company or that government agency? Maybe they're retirees and it's that one pension, you know? So in that regard, they're not properly diversified. So one of the reasons I tell people they should have a sideline business is because it's a diversification away from their jobs. Which most financial advisors don't even go in that area because, you know, it's fine to be diversified in your investments. I tell the same thing. But if most of your income is coming from one job, you know, what does it mean? That means that if you don't have something to fall back on, then you're going to have some pain. So why not have a business in your spare time? That way you're properly diversified. So, you know, I've seen people who might have lost their job, but they still had income coming in a part-time job. So they ended up expanding their business their spare time business, and then they would be full time. And to me, the whole point about the Raving Capitalist approach is, look, to everybody out there, the more resilient you are, the more self-reliant you are, the more independent you are, then then the more free you are. Oh. And this is why I like your program, because many people, it's not money for money's sake. It's not to prosper because you're trying to set aside for a long distance future. It's because you want more freedom, and also you don't want to be like those people out there who are like on fixed income. You know what I mean? When you hear about them, you know what I mean? So for me, this is why one of my courses is all about how to create passive income. Because wealth is only as good as the income it provides you for current and future expenses.
Yeah, but Paul, you know what I'm getting here that's deeper than just the income you're bringing in? And this is great because, as you said, when you're able to bring those several sources of income, your job today that you're working at goes under, belly under, you've got other income. You're not going to feel stressed that, I won't be able to provide for my kids. We won't have the health care. You're going to have that available. And the freedom to not know that, I'm going to be having to go to the government for welfare or unemployment. If it's necessary, you get unemployment, but you'll have that backup. Now, what I'm really, really loving here, though, is that it's building diversification personally because you're building those relationships.
Yeah, and you're taking control above and beyond just like different investments. And, and let me tell you something. I teach in a lot of places, Denver and Philadelphia, whatever. And there's places I do adult education which are in some impoverished areas of the cities, you know what I mean? And I get people in my area who are either poor or they are on fixed income or they are on public assistance. So I tell them, I go, you more than anybody else should have a sideline business and be able to build your wealth. I mean, because let me tell you right now, a lot of this is to help people become resilient on a personal level because there's a lot of things on the big picture that are problematic. I mean, a lot of parts of the economy are in great shape. I mean, the employment picture looks pretty rosy, but no matter how good or bad it is, how resilient are you to the next downturn? But I take it a step further. Right now, there are some states out there and some cities, actually many cities out there, where they're running into huge deficits. They might not have the ability to be able to pay for things like firemen and teachers, but not only that, they might have to cut back or diminish things like public assistance. So a lot of people, because when you're on public assistance, you can be careful. It can lull you into a sense of complacency where you're not protecting yourself. So because let's face it, people got harmed when Detroit filed for bankruptcy. Right now, when I do the data, states like Illinois and California are running some deficits in their budgets, which means that a lot of people who are dependent on this are going to be blindsided unless they take the steps now. People forget that, your own abilities to create wealth, your knowledge, your time, your effort, your God-given mind, that all this stuff, these are powerful assets that should be put to use for your own sake and for the people that you love. Yeah. I tell people, look, I think the greatest form of social justice or economic justice is when you can help people become empowered where they're not dependent on some other entity, be it like government agency or that pension, whatever, and they're more resilient.
Yeah, it's the premise of teaching them to fish as opposed to just giving them the fish. Now they're empowered where they can go out and make their own wealth.
Right, exactly. If people are giving you the fish, what happens when they're gone the next day? Now what?
You're hungry again.
Suffer because you didn't learn the mechanics of being on your own. So for me, being a raving capitalist is not just good financially, economically, or liberty. I think it's also important morally on many levels. You know what I mean? Because that's you're building wealth by giving other people service. It's a win-win situation. It's a lot better than a lot of countries out there where there is, there's tyranny and socialism and all the rest of the stuff. So take advantage of a society that lets you do these mechanisms where you couldn't across the globe.
Yeah. And what's so important, what you mentioned there, is we all have God-given talents, some of which, or many of which, we take for granted because it's so easy for us. For me, connecting with others and talking to them is something that comes easy for me. And I remember when I left corporate America and started consulting, someone said, I could see you being a hairdresser or something like that. And I was like, why? And they said, because you love talking to people, a bartender. They just kept thinking of those type of jobs because I love talking to people. But there's something, a God-given talent, even if you take it for granted and ask friends or family what it is they see in you that you just naturally just click with, and find ways to monetize it, because there's others who need your gift. Like my one friend, she said, I draw. Who needs that? Well, I can't draw. Maybe I need you to draw me something, a logo or whatever, and I could pay you for your value.
Oh, well, let me tell you something. In one of my courses on passive income, I give them the example of somebody that I know of, not me personally, but it's like they took my course, so I cheered them on. Mm-hmm. They took one picture of something that was really a nice picture, and they put it on a one of the stock photo sites.
Yeah.
And he got royalties from that picture being sold, and that photo was so desirable. It was rented out, so to speak, like people paid to put it on their website, whatever, over 7,000 times. So, which means that if you only get that royalty site paid 50-50. Like if they got $2, they would keep $1 and pay him $1. Now he got more than that, but let's say he was only $1. He got paid $7,000 because he did a photo. Mm. You follow me here? In other words, people in your audience they have powerful wealth building, even activities they enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that people are able to do. Like for example, you mentioned about your activities at your site. Mm-hmm. Me at my site, there are people right now who are reselling some of my courses just by putting on at their website and putting on links. Mm-hmm. Because I'm going to be premiering in January. I'll be premiering on the JVZoo platform, so people can be able to make up to 60% reselling my courses. And it's as simple as putting it on your website, and when people click on the link, the platform does all the rest. There's lots of places out there. I know people out there, for example, who love movies. So they'll do a free blog where they do a review of a movie, then put links to Amazon where people can get the video or whatever, mm-hmm. and they get paid Amazon income. A referral income from Amazon. They don't do a thing. They just click and they go off to Amazon. Amazon does all the rest. Yeah. They do shipping, the packing, and everything else. They just got an affiliate link. And as a matter of fact, I'll be doing a co-authoring a book on affiliate income. Coming up. I can't reveal it yet because I haven't signed the agreement. So it might be with a large publisher. But it's going to be an entire book on all the ways you can make money just by simply sharing a link with somebody. Wouldn't that be cool? But people can do this and so much more, and I talk about this in my seminars, and this is why they got to keep on watching your program. Aww. Because I know you have tons of amazing people on it. So I'm honored to be here and talking about these great topics with your audience.
Thank you so much, Paul. I mean, I'm grateful to have you here. You have so much wisdom and value to share with our audience. Now, one thing you mentioned about there's different ways to build, income without even having to stress very hard, like getting with an affiliate marketing with you or Amazon. But it was interesting. I went to a business event where the guy there was saying, okay, people getting started with their business, I don't have the income to even launch my business. What do I do? Who do I go to for capital? Because they're thinking, how do I get capital? AKA, now you're going to have debt. And he said, well, how about we start with, because a lot of these guys wanted to go out and be coaches. He said, there's at least 50 ways you can go out and make money. Start. And so he gave him some ideas. Like, let's say you like to cook. Maybe you can have a cooking class at your house on the weekends. Yeah. Maybe you could have knitting, teaching people how to knit, or maybe you could go take their dog out. So he was like, trying to rev up their mind that there's little ways with your gifts or talents, or even something as much as like walking dogs. You love dogs. It's not a talent per se, but you love dogs. They love you. There's different ways if you just start opening up your mind to pulling up income in different areas.
Well, you know what's interesting, if I could just pass this along to folks, people think that the business process can be very complicated. There's like 1,000 moving parts. It can be, but let me boil it down to simple. When I teach about launching a business, I can boil down every business out there to two basic components, all right? Number one is the setup phase, mm-hmm. and number two is the marketing. So as an example, if somebody says to me, well, Paul, I love, like you said, I love cooking. You know what I mean? Actually, a student of mine launched a seafood blog. You know what I mean? So what they would do is they would now, with things like with smartphones, and mine isn't as smart as it used to be. My wife has a smarter phone than I do. But now this has the ability you can record your voice. Mm-hmm. It has the ability to do what? You can speak to it, and it'll it'll transcribe it. You know what I mean? And plus you could do a videotape. You know what I mean? So now there are people out there who can be able to say videotape them making their favorite shrimp recipe, mm-hmm. putting it on YouTube, and so now you have the setup. It could be a YouTube channel. It could be a blog. It could be Tumblr. It could be on Facebook. It could be on Instagram. There's a lot of places where you can get set up. But in many cases, these same places give you the marketplace too as well. Okay, and so therefore, what can you offer in that kind of simple venue? If you're cooking and you're doing a video at YouTube, now what? You can register for free for like in places like ClickBank or JVZoo or Amazon for the affiliate stuff, and then have links to cooking supplies and the ingredients, etc. They can get a great course on cooking from you, that particular meal, but then there's a link to the cookbook, your own or somebody else's. There's a link to getting supplies and a link to getting food shipped to you. And all of a sudden, you get people who love your video. They click on that, and you've made money simply by giving them the great content like how to cook. Now, one of my students, as an example, he was retiring, but he loved woodworking. You know, so I said, what are you going to be doing in retirement? He goes, oh, I'll probably be doing woodworking. Okay. So I said to him, you know what you should do then? Videotape yourself doing something simple like a chair and just talking out loud. What are you doing the entire way? And then you can do what? Put it on places like Udemy, as an example, or Skillshare, you know? And once you have it up there, you know, one of them has a model that when people sign up for the course, you get paid a percentage. Whereas other have a model like Skillshare, is a model that more people who view it, they calculate royalties based on minutes of viewership. You know what I mean? So in other words, people don't have to pay anything, just as they're viewing. That's how they cut the royalty pie, and they pay people. So there's people out there making either a few $100s a month or a few thousand a month because they're doing simple things like this, things they love to do, you know, add some meaning to their life, sharing with others, and doing this. And it could be as simple as on the weekend. You know what I mean?
And what I love about what you're sharing here is that you're bringing others into the marketplace. Like when you said you're having the cooking channel on YouTube and you bring in Amazon, you show them, maybe Amazon didn't even have to know about it, but you put the links of where they can get everything you're using within the video. Bam, I've got all the tools I need to make that awesome shrimp dinner. And what I've also noticed that I think have to touch on is people have come to me and say, how do I get amazing broadcast that makes, you know, a whole bunch of views like you and money and advertisers and blah, blah, blah. And I've done courses like that. And people were like, well, I wasn't successful. I don't think it really worked. Well, how much time did you put? When I start asking the questions, they weren't consistent. They didn't put the time in. Whatever it is you do, whether building a YouTube channel to make that awesome cooking channel, people are going to come to rely on you, not only for the great content you're giving, but it has to be consistent where they know that, oh, I come here every Saturday and I get awesome cooking tips.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, and I think if only people walk away from this broadcast with you and they start thinking the possibilities, you know, like some people out there at the end of a long week, they go on like, oh my God, I got the bills, I got school, I got this and that. Oh my God, I just got this medical bill or whatever. And they don't think enough about the possibilities. And the thing is, if all they did was, like what you just mentioned now, this stuff, you know, like people say, well, I don't know where to start. But there are tons of sites online that are tutorial sites, even YouTube itself. I mean, me, when I go to YouTube, I don't go to the, you know, the video of the guy in a gorilla suit falling off the roof, you know, whatever. That's fine. I get 10 million views. But even if you did that, you know, YouTube has advertising revenue. So even when you do something dumb like that, you can make revenue from this. But I can go to YouTube and say, how do you set up a blog? You know, how do you do a good videotape? You know, it's et cetera. And it's all available for you, but it takes some time and effort to do this, again, in your spare time. And then you're off to the races, and then you try something, you know?
What's cool, though, Paul, is, like you said, if they leave here with just one idea that, let me look at all the possibilities of the gifts, the talents, of things that are in my immediate facility that I could start to put out there and bring value to people, bring in some side income, and at the same time, be patient as it grows. Because I think that's one thing that as a society, we see celebrities, we see people who are kicking it like Amazon. We think, oh, I want to be there next week. And Amazon took years to build. Some of the greatest, biggest companies out there took years to build where they are today. So be patient with yourself and just start to look at the possibilities and just get one foot in front of the other and start to build it.
Let me give people one technique from my home business seminar. You know, I don't know if you got a chance to show them that on there, but I tell them, I say, everybody do the 10-10 approach. This is my favorite thing. Get a blank piece of paper, put a line down the middle, you know, on the left side of it, write down 10 things you love to do. I don't care what they are. I like to sleep. I like to watch movies, whatever. Write down 10 things you love to do that no one has to put a gun to your head to make you do. All right. And then on the right side of that line, you jot down 10 things that you have either an immense amount of education on, expertise, talent, experience in. And wherever those two lists intersect, that's probably your ideal business or job. You know what I mean? Like one person I knew that, he did a window cleaning business. He says, what do I get from that? So he decided to do a video on how to launch a successful window cleaning business. And that became passive income because, he was able to sell it on Amazon and the rest, and they did all the work. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of possibilities there. That's where I want people to start. Where do they naturally gravitate towards and convert that into a business?
Absolutely.
So like one person I know worked for the post office. This is years ago, right? The post office, hated his job. You know what I mean? As soon as he was qualified for the pension, he retired immediately. But then what? He became a mail order consultant, and he had a lot more fun and continued making money, because now what? Now he's using his experience from at the post office to tell people how to do marketing on it, and he was dealing with people having more fun and more interaction than simply delivering mail. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And that was a good platform to bigger and better things for him personally. You know what I mean? But everybody has that power. But the 10-10 approach, which I go into detail in the Home Business Goldmine, will show people how to do that. Everyone can do that. You know what I mean? I think it's the best way to go. You know what I mean?
There's so many
experience or expertise. That's a win-win combination for you.
Absolutely. There's so many possibilities out there. I don't want us to leave here today, though, without people finding out how they can get your awesome new book, Socialism versus Capitalism, and how they can find out more about zero-cost marketing coming in this January, and all the other wonderful events you have coming up.
Oh my God, fantastic. Well, let me tell you something. The one thing that I would like to have people do on the capitalism versus socialism, I made it so that they can share it with millennials, etc., an infographic that makes it very simple. I'll send it off to you and provide that. And that's the best way for people to start. All right. Now, in terms of what people can benefit, thank you for letting me speak. RavingCapitalist.com, and in my courses, people say, well, why is it Raving Capitalist? I say, well, I was born in a communist country. That's how you become a raving capitalist. So the courses on how to invest and how to start a business, they're all there at RavingCapitalist.com. And, hopefully they'll get a chance to see what I sent you that are like links to on the Udemy side, but they're all in 5-minute videos where they can get complete details and take it a step further and prosper. And I'll cheer them on. And I thank you. So RavingCapitalist.com. And so much more. Thank you again. I appreciate telling you this.
You're such an awesome big help here, sharing your wisdom with our audience. And I know they're going to get a lot of value out of this. To all of your wonderful content and also your new book coming up. And everyone, stay tuned for Zero Cost Marketing coming up this January. I want you to stay tuned for that. Go to the RavingCapitalist.com for that. And Paul, I just have to thank you again for coming to share your great wisdom today on Savvy Business Radio.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to be even more thrilled the next time I see you live. I'd be thrilled, but thank you. I'm honored to be here. And I wish everyone a joyous season and a happy new year. And thank you again. God bless all.
God bless. Thank you, Paul.
Savvy Business Radio broadcasts worldwide via a large podcast network, celebrating business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, and successful individuals. Find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest. Call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.